Welcome back to Worldwide Sim Racing. I do apologize for all the technical difficulties we have been experiencing for the setup of the race as we're just getting ready for the start of the 2020 WSR Canadian Grand Prix. We will be restarting qualifying. We did have an issue with the setup for the race. Some drivers were not happy. We are getting ready just right now, 20 seconds ago from the start of the session. Rain will be the exact same. We'll have the same weather forecast. All drivers will probably be getting out immediately to set times. So again, I do apologize for any inconveniences. We are live once again. Thank you for joining us for live coverage of the 2020 WSR Formula World Championship. And there are the blinking sounds of the start of the session. Short qualifying is 18 minutes. Set as many lap times as you possibly can and try to go as fast as possible. I do believe qualifying will be a one-lap affair as drivers will be immediately getting out, setting up their setups and just going out and doing their best. We do expect wet setups as we are just getting ready for the qualifying, but we are expecting drivers to do wet setups as the race will be wet. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. It seems we have another technical difficulty. Unless everything is okay. I'm just waiting to see. Oh, weather is not the same. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a blooper reels of trying to start this Canadian Grand Prix. It seems to be a curse, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, Canada was terrible. The internet wouldn't work. Everything was awful. I have no idea if we are going to be starting or not. There is a car getting ready to go out on track. It is one of the Red Bull cars. I believe it's the only Red Bull car is Nicholas. Diego is going out now as well. I do believe we will just move on, and it will not be a wet qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix. And we're just getting ready right now. Diego is out on track. I do believe Nicholas is ahead of... No, is not actually ahead of him. Diego was able to get out first in the Williams car. And we will go around with Diego. Diego was on pole position before he restarted the lobby. I am getting the report at the moment that we will not be restarting the lobby. We will just continue on with the dry conditions. And it will be Diego who starts his lap first. 12 drivers at the moment for this Canadian Grand Prix, and Dempsey was out of the session, so no idea what happened to him. I don't know if he'll join back if he had a backup invite. I don't believe he did. Here comes around the track, Diego starting his lap, going over across the line in the turn one. Let's see how smooth he can do it through here. Nice through turn one, and then quick and nice and tight in the turn two. Getting on the power early, getting the car rotated. There's a yellow flag in sector 3. I do believe it is one of the Renaults slowing up and coming through the downhill chicane of sector 1 and looking very nice indeed through there as well. Yellow, it is purple sector 1, of course, at the moment for Diego, though he is the first driver out on track. As Diego is flying through sector 2 on the DRS, now coming up towards the uphill chicane of sector 2. Nice and tidy through there, just on the limit, just on the point of invalidation. And now to the hairpin. Purple sector 2, of course. Coming now around the turn. Rotating the car with the throttle. Now down the DRS straight. DRS opens underneath the Pirelli bridge. And now going down the straight should reach speeds upwards of close to 210 miles per hour if you're on the right setup. And now coming around the final chicane. And here we go. Coming across the line. It looks like he hit the wall, the retaining wall a little bit. And he goes fastest of a 108.7. Nicholas with a 109.0. Chuck is coming across the line. What time will he set? and looks good. Sector coming across the line. It was an invalidated time, and it's another invalidated time for Sector. Chuck goes third fastest for 109.9. Actually worse than the lap previous, where it was questionable conditions, to say the least. Flip-flop fish actually splits into third position with a 109.1. TePastor goes into fourth. Chuck actually with a bad lap. And UCME flying for 110.3. And Jonathan Cox goes fourth fastest. Again, a good qualifying position for Jonathan Cox at the moment in the Rich Energy Haas car. LSF1 Baker in the Ferrari goes fifth fastest with a 109.4. And Sector currently on a bad lap at the moment. Red lap again, and there is look to be Chuck ahead of him. And Chuck does let by Sector, but Sector won't be setting a lap on this current lap. It won't be setting a time, as Scar Logan is on an out lap, is now coming around the final few turns for his first lap, keeping it out of the wall, and will start the next lap. I'm going to ride on board with the Renault and take you around a lap. Coming through turn one, a little bit of a hiccup there in the gears. And a little bit of wheel spin out of the turn. Not looking too tidy right now for Scar Logan. And, big slow up through the downhill chicane. It's not looking good right now. Scar Logan is definitely not purple in Sector 1. And coming around the turns now, it is, I believe... Oh, and he hits the wall out right there. This has not been a great lap from Scar Logan, as he is coming on the uphill section of Sector 2. And we're going to get the telemetry on board for you right now and the lap data. As coming around the hairpin in Canada, Scar Logan LPC, not looking great. Getting out of there a little better than he has in some other turns. Under the Pirelli Bridge, DRS activated. Coming down the line now towards the chicane. Now, does he invalidate it here? Does he keep it clean? And looks good. And yes, out of the wall. What time will Scar Logan said? I don't believe it's going to be too quick. And it is only seventh fastest. Nathan De Villers is now going to set a lap in the McLaren. The other McLaren of blank 101 is not on track at the moment. I do believe it is blank 101 in the other McLaren, or it's Mitch. Nevertheless, only one McLaren out on track right now. It is Nathan De Villers, Formula 4 driver, getting ready to see what he can do. There is a racing point of Chuck behind him. And there's a lot of cars ahead of him, actually, as he is almost into the wall, coming out of the exit, DRS activated, and it is getting, I would like to mention this, getting cloudy, and I don't know if the conditions were set wrong, but nevertheless, it is actually getting wet out on track. And there might have been a little bit less of a immediate rainfall possibly set up on track, so maybe the conditions were set up correctly. And Nathan De Villers is we'll see. And that's a big lockup, and then an issue for Nathan De Villers. He might have caught dirty air, and Nathan De Villers has possibly screwed himself in qualifying right now, and Nathan De Villers goes off track, and it is raining hard very quickly, and Nathan De Villers is pretty much done in qualifying. His only chance to get up to the top, and I don't know if that was necessarily Sector's fault. Sector doing all he can, but you can't really get out of the way there. He maybe should have slowed up, as it probably gave him dirty air down the track. And Sector is all over the place right now, and he almost went into the wall there. Did he go into the wall? No, the front end plate is still okay. Maybe he did. Going into the hairpin, just missing the apex, and then definitely slapped the wall with his tire there, but the front wing is still okay. Sector is now trying to come across the line. This has been a very scruffy lap from the newly promoted driver, and it is Diego who retired from the session. Rain is falling down, and here comes Sector through here, and that's a hit on the wall of champions, and it's an invalidated lap by Sector. Sector retires on track, and that is definitely not what he should have been doing there, but nevertheless, qualifying is pretty much over, As the rain has started to come down, all the drivers did try to set their best times, but Diego, nevertheless, is still on pole position. Niklas is second this time, however. Flip-Flop Fish in third. And Jonathan Cox is fourth fastest. Chuck had a much worse qualifying in eighth. And I suspect all the drivers will then retire from the session. With 9 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in qualifying, we're just getting ready to see. I do believe most of the drivers will just retire from the session. And Niklas is another driver who is not yet coming to the pit lane, but I'm sure will retire once getting into the pit lane. I would like to mention Jonathan Cox, again, one of the only drivers who is staying put in the pit lane, but is not retiring from the session. There goes Yosemite Fine retiring. It's Dempsey who I believe will retire. Nathan DeVillers should retire soon as well. Niklas finally into the pits. Will probably retire here as well. And that is a wheel spin moment for Scarlogan LPC, trying to limp back to the pit lane. As we have 8 minutes and 40 seconds left to go, and somebody is getting ready to go out again, and I'm really starting to wonder if it's a bit of a joke. On the intermediate tires is Nathan DeVillers. Now, if it's an exploratory lap, fine, but I don't really... Oh, he hasn't set a time, which is probably the reason why. Nathan DeVillers, I did remember, did invalidate on that last lap, so he probably just wants to get a time on the board in general. Sector did not get a time in. Sector is all the way down in 11th. Chuck retires. Jonathan Cox has retired. Niklas hasn't retired yet. Dempsey is still in the pit lane, hasn't set a time. Will most likely want to get onto the intermediates and set a time. Try to get ahead of Nathan DeVillers, who obviously is here to set a time in the rain. At least get somewhat up on the field. And Nathan DeVillers is sliding all over the place. Now, Nathan DeVillers, I would have to assume, is not the happiest man with Sector. And Nathan DeVillers is way at the bottom of the grid. And possibly could have actually had pole position. I would have presumed the slipstream from Sector would have been quite good. But Sector didn't get out of the way. And Nathan DeVillers had the break way earlier than he probably would have liked to. And even got still dirty air. Now coming around the chicane, will set a time on the wets, keeping it just out of the wall of champions. And I'm going to ride on board with the Formula 4 driver here as he's coming around the first few turns on his lap and trying to get on the power early. And big wheel spin, and really has to fight the car and recovers the car. But that was definitely not fantastic. And Dempsey is still in the pit lane. Niklas is still in the pit lane as well. The two drivers have not come out on track yet. Nathan DeVillers is trying to set a time. Surprised to see the drivers haven't retired yet. I don't know if Dempsey is planning on going out or not, but nevertheless, Nathan DeVillers is trying to set a time, at least get himself a time on the board. He is fast. He is 10th at the moment on track, so he would start 10th if there were retirements. And I would actually like to mention that it's actually a second, purple Sector 2 for Nathan DeVillers. Now, I don't really know how that's the case, but it is a purple Sector 2 nonetheless. So, now this is obviously not going to be a pole position time. As you can see, he is struggling, locking up the brakes. Does go over through the chicane, okay. Will set a time in the rain, but it is going to be vastly slower than Yosemite Flying's 9th fastest time of 1 minute 10. It's 8 seconds slower. Now, Nathan DeVillers retires on track. I think that's quite okay. I don't really expect drivers to be going out on track. Dempsey and Niklas are still in the pit lane. The deck has joined. And we're just getting ready for the start of qualifying. We have just about 5 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. And And there we go. All the drivers have retired with 5 minutes left to go in qualifying. And Diego is your man in pole position with a 1 minute 8.7. It is a tenth and 77 hundredths of a second faster than Niklas. Flip-flop Fish in third, Jonathan Cox in fourth, and LSF1 Baker in the Ferrari is rounding off the top five. So a good position for Baker in the Ferrari. Gurman is also not in the Tier 1. He has had to pull out of WSR due to scheduling problems. So the only Ferrari on the grid, Sweet Car 19 also in the Ferrari, obviously. LSF1 Baker is the only Ferrari on the grid, so I'll have to wait and see how he does. It is raining right now, and I can just see the intermediate tire in LSF1 Baker's garage as we're going to get ready for the start of the race. And we do believe it will stay intermediate conditions. I don't know if it's supposed to go into rain. We'll have to wait and see. As 30 seconds to go left in the load-up screen, and we will get onto the formation lap. And, of course, as always, I will go through the starting lineup for the 2020 WSR Canadian Grand Prix. And 10 seconds to go. Here we go. And I'll go over your starting lineup. And that one red light comes on, and here we go. Let's go over the starting lineup for the 2020 WSR Canadian Grand Prix. Diego is on pole position, ahead of Niklas, 73 in the Red Bull. Flip-flop Fish, your championship leader, is third on the grid. Jonathan Cox in the Haas is behind him. LSF1 Baker with a great qualifying position in fifth for the Ferrari, ahead of the two Renaults of DePaster and Scarlogan LPC. Chuck with a pretty terrible qualifying comparative to the previous lobby is only 8th fastest. You see me flying in the Mercedes is 9th. Nathan DeVillers, who probably is quite unhappy to be in 10th after what looked to be a pretty good hot lap in the dry, is starting in 10th ahead of, I would like to mention, the guy who might have ruined his lap, Sector RGZ. Now, the two drivers actually go side by side a little bit on the formation lap. We might see some touchy-go driving between the drivers as Dempsey rounds off the grid in the Toro Rosso, did not set a time, and it will be interesting to see how he does in the race as well. Canada is normally a pretty fast race, so there's about 35 laps in this race, though with the rain, we are expecting at least a few minutes more as all the cars are coming around on what is a DRS straight, but won't be for this race, as it will be rainy conditions we expect throughout the entire race. As Diego slows himself up, and the AI should be kicking in pretty soon. They'll take them around the final chicane, and the AI is certainly in control now, keeping them out of the wall champions. It's Diego on pole position. Niklas in second. Flip-flop Fish in third. And Jonathan Cox in fourth on the second row of the grid. And the rest of the drivers are going to line up with Dempsey in last. As here we go. The engines roar as we get ready for the 5 red lights. It's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it is go! And a drive-through penalty for You See Me Flying, jumping the start, and he's going to go all the way to the bottom of the track. But it's 3 wide in the turn 1. It's Niklas who takes the lead, and it's Diego who gets a terrible start off the line. A big wheel spin moment. He's dropping down positions rapidly, but it's Niklas who leads the Grand Prix in the Red Bull, followed by Flip-Flop Fish in second position. Jonathan Cox in third in the Haas. DePaster in the Renault in fourth. Diego with a terrible start now. Scarlogan LPC is behind him and gets big dirty air behind him, and Chuck is in 7th. Dempsey in 8th position got a great start. and Baker is in 9th. Sector in 10th position, and now Sector trying to go on the inside of Baker, and actually they touch a little bit, and now Nathan DeVillers will try to get involved as well. 11th on the grid at the moment, not getting a good start ahead of Sector, but will definitely like to get ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver nonetheless. Used to be flying, will have to serve a drive-through and is at the bottom of the racetrack and must be absolutely livid right now of himself to be starting this poorly in the race, as clearly he will have to take that drive-through immediately. Nicholas leads the Grand Prix, though, ahead of Flip-Flop Fish by about a second. It's a second and 3/10 of a second behind with Jonathan Cox. DePaster is in the slipstream right now, 3/10 behind Jonathan Cox in the Renault. In 4th position, Diego with a little bit of wheel spin out of the wall of champions area as Diego. And it's a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. More insult to injury. Now there was a dive on the inside by Chuck on Scar Logan. And now it's going to be a move around the outside. But Scar Logan actually bumps Chuck, and it's Scar Logan who keeps the position ahead of Chuck in the racing point. He will try to get ahead of Scar Logan, but he is having an issue right now, and he is 7th on the grid at the moment. Dempsey is looking at this battle and definitely feeling happy. 3-second time penalty already for Sector. He's already cut corners, already on lap number 2. That is not going to bode well for his race. Nathan DeVillers is dropping behind Sector at the moment, not having a good start of his own, and Sector is trying to chase down Dempsey. And look at Chuck really trying to wrangle the car around Scar Logan. A better exit out of the uphill chicane of Sector 2. Trying to possibly make a move on the hairpin. Will look around the outside. Scar Logan will try to push him as wide as possible. But now a switchback by the Racing Point driver. But a bad exit out of the hairpin. And Scar Logan, ooh, and that's wheel spin. And now Sector will be looking even closer to Chuck, as Chuck has terrible wheel spin out of there. And Dempsey, though, is getting close to Sector. Will he make a move before the chicane? Will look on the inside, but a little bit too far back. It's Flip-Flop Fish, though, chasing down Nicholas. Flip-Flop Fish goes fastest on track at the moment. Nicholas is in the lead, though. A great start for him. It was a great start in Belgium, and it's an even better start in Canada, as Nicholas is looking for a good bucket of points here and possibly a win for the first time in WSR. I don't want to jinx anything, though. He is doing good right now, leading Flip-Flop Fish, however, in the Red Bull. Jonathan Cox is in 3rd, distant 3rd, I would like to add, as he's almost 2 seconds off of Flip-Flop Fish. The pastor is trying to chase him down, and it is, oh no, Scar Logan, I believe, has had an incident, and he might have had a crash, and oh, but look at this now, Nathan DeVillers is trying to get ahead of him and finally does so, but does Scar Logan have damage, or did he just slide? I believe he had a slide. Dempsey is now, ooh, Dempsey actually has to take the escape road and slot behind Scar Logan. Now, he tried to make an overtake there, I do believe, or maybe just outbroke himself. Nevertheless, taking the escape road, Dempsey will have to make up some work again. Scar Logan LPC will try his best to get back up ahead of Nathan DeVillers, but has lost a lot of momentum. Diego is only 5th at the moment, has recovered some positions, is ahead of Chuck at the moment, trying to chase down to Pastor in the other Renault. Nicholas goes fastest again with a 1:22. Nicholas is really in the groove right now, 1.4 seconds ahead of Flip-Flop Fish. Nicholas, again, has been growing ever so much so in skill since joining Tier 1 in WSR, and is now on a roll right now in Canada in the rain. Jonathan Cox, 3rd fastest, 2.3 seconds behind the Mercedes driver Flip-Flop Fish, who is trying to chase down Nicholas, but is not finding the same pace. Diego, though, is keeping up with Pastor in the Renault. On to that, what would have been a DRS straight, is rainy conditions right now in the intermediate tires. It's looking pretty heavy right now. I'm not expecting wet conditions. We'll have to wait and see. Diego gets a little bit of wheel spin out of that turn. Will drop back a little bit from Pastor. Pastor got his own tank slapper, but he seems to be well okay. And it is seemingly both drivers who are getting pretty similar pace at the moment on their intermediate tires. I'm going to ride on board with Nathan DeVillers. He's behind Sector RGZ. Now, these two drivers had a moment in qualifying. Will they have a moment in the race? Sector is really slow down the straight. Nathan DeVillers I think Nathan DeVille's backed out of there for his own sake and will try to get ahead of Sector in another location on track or try to get ahead of him earlier on the straight. Scar Logan LPC 3.2 seconds behind. Now, I would like to mention... Oh, no, there's a crash! Baker is hitting the back of You See Me Flying. Now, there's been an incident with the two drivers, and now You See Me Flying slows up considerably. Baker gets ahead of him, and that is interesting to say the least. Now, look at You See Me Flying almost pushes Baker. Now, there was contact between the two drivers, Baker and You See Me Flying. And Chuck gets a drive-through pen. There's a safety car deployed for what? I believe it was the contact, but there's a safety car out on track, and that's going to have to get looked into after the race. Chuck hit the back of You See Me Flying. Now, there's no crashes at all, but there's a safety car at the moment. Chuck has a drive-through penalty, however, for speeding in the pit lane and multiple warnings to put onto that. Safety car deployed on lap number 5. And no idea what was going on with Baker and You See Me Flying. I'm going to try to watch You See Me Flying's stream and see what exactly happened there. But it was very interesting nonetheless. We're under safety car conditions at the moment. Again, really interesting to see exactly what happened there. So I'm going to try to rewind a little bit. I'm going to go back as much as I can. And now we're in the third sector, so Baker is behind You See Me Flying. Now we go into the hairpin. You See Me Flying tries to give Baker the outside line. Baker looking good so far. Looks like You See Me Flying tried to cut across. A lot of wheel spin for You See Me Flying. And now Baker behind him. Now I'm going to wait and see what happens. Oh, see, now Baker just hit the back of him. That is... No reason for that to happen. No reason for that to happen. Safety car was deployed because of that. And it's a little bit of a ridiculous situation for that, as Chuck is at the back of the grid. I don't know. I wasn't looking if he served the drive-thru or not, but Niklas is in the lead. But Flip-Flop Fish will be able to gain back now. Now, I am really, really surprised by that. I watched on stream there if You See Me Flying, and that was not looking too good. He just rammed to the back of him. And pretty much what you said, uncalled for. Uncalled for, to say the least. Looks like You See Me Flying is trying to let Baker by, actually. So You See Me Flying apparently did slow up at some point. I didn't see the let off on the throttle, though. But Baker went right into the back of him. So it might have actually been You See Me Flying who was at fault there in the situation. But You See Me Flying apparently trying to let Baker by. It did not work out so. Baker, though, is way at the back of the field right now, 34 seconds, is trying to catch up to the safety car queue, so he can't pretty much go full speed, as all the cars are under safety car at the moment. Niklas leads the Grand Prix on lap number 7 of 35. It's going to be a long one, ladies and gentlemen. Rainy conditions and a safety car now. Chuck gets a 5-second penalty for a collision with with Diego. Now, does he have front wing damage? Yes, there is an end plate gone. Actually, a lot of damage on the front wing. Oof. Now, I don't know if Diego slowed up a little bit on their safety car. I have done that once on the formation lap. But nevertheless, Chuck has more time added onto his race. You do have to be careful with drivers ahead of you. You do not want to run into the back of anybody. And again, this is the worst shot on an F1 2019 on Spectator View. It is the wheel shot. Bit of a meme now, I think. As under safety car conditions still, I presume for another lap, and then it will come in the next lap. under what is a pretty minor collision, actually, between Baker and UCME Flying. Now, what will be most interesting to see is if Baker and UCME Flying come together at all. Nathan DeVillers is ahead of Sector. Now, under rain conditions, drivers are not required to, of course, go onto a different tire set. So they are not required to make pit stops, but they will, of course, have to. These intermediate tires do, in fact, wear out, but they are not required, of course, to go onto the wets. That would be slower and absurd. And riding on board with Baker, and I believe UCME Flying is finally caught up to the Ferrari. So I might actually ride on board of them as well a little bit on the restart to see what happens here, as Nicholas is coming through beginning of Sector 2 now. Under safety car conditions, Nicholas and Flip-Flop Fish. And oops, Sector gets a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Now, what did he do? He must have cut a whole chicane. That's a lot of time to get a penalty on. That's insane. Absolutely insane. 10 seconds. That's a huge penalty. And that's going to help UCME Flying, of course. Safety car is in this lap, as I expected it to be. They're coming around the hairpin now. The safety car will speed up, of course, and Nicholas will become the effective safety car and will control the pack. He is on, of course, a speed limiter, but can't bunch up the pack as much as he wants, though. We'll have to wait and see how he controls this. Flip-Flop Fish tends to back up the pack a lot. Nicholas kind of wants to get ahead of it, it seems. And warming up the tires as much as you can under what is, of course, a cold track. Now, coming towards the end, now around the chicane, and we'll get back on the power early, and it looks to be a pretty decent restart. Flip-Flop Fish, though, is chasing down Nicholas, and coming in the turn one, it is Nicholas who will stay ahead of him, though, as green flag conditions now coming across the line. It's Nicholas who remains in the lead of this race. DePastor is behind Jonathan Cox, Diego behind him. I'm going to ride on board with UCME Flying, and Chuck actually is behind UCME Flying, who got a bad restart, and Baker is ahead of him, getting a good restart. And all the drivers seem to keep position as Sector is trying to chase down Nathan DeVillers. Nathan DeVillers close, and oh, here we go. Chuck makes an overtake on UCME Flying, and that was a quick overtake, so UCME Flying, I think, might have had problems, and UCME Flying is struggling right now under the rainy conditions. Flip-Flop Fish is trying to chase down Nicholas, is already losing time to him, though. Here comes Nathan DeVillers trying to chase down Diego. Will look on the inside into the hairpin, and ooh, who goes wide? There's a big wide by Dempsey. Dempsey went extremely wide, and it's going to drop way down the grid and will slot behind UCME Flying. Now Nathan DeVillers trying to get ahead of Diego. Diego went really wide into the turn, but Nathan DeVillers got a bad exit out of the turn, I believe, and it's Sector who actually gets a good run. Nicholas goes fastest again at 121. Drivers did not pit under the safety car. And look at this, DePastor looking on the inside of Cox. Not able to make the move. Will slot behind him. Diego is behind him as well. Nathan DeVillers in 6th position. Sector in 7th. And Scarlogan LPC 2 seconds behind. Baker is a half a second behind Scarlogan LPC. And here comes Chuck around the Sector 2's turns, and UCME Flying is behind by about 3 seconds. Dempsey into the pits, had the repair front wing damage, is 22 seconds behind the rest of the pack. Closest battle right now is for 4th position. It's Diego and Nathan DeVillers and Sector all in a train right now, battling for that position. I think Sector right now really just wants to get ahead of Nathan DeVillers right now. Ooh, look at that. Diego got very close to DePastor on the hairpin. Kept it behind him, though. No wing damage for him. Here comes the Williams in the slipstream of DePastor. Will he get close enough for an overtake? I don't think he will. To Nathan DeVillers, same. Tries to follow Diego, who tries to take an inside line, kind of to scare DePastor, probably to try to fake a defense. Now, Diego got a fantastic run out of the chicane. Will probably look on the inside. No. He's not able to get the run to do it. And that is not going to bode well. Chuck gets another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And Chuck is on a monumental amount of penalties. I'd have to imagine Baker is on a 10-second penalty. 5 seconds behind as you see me flying. Diego is following to Pastor right now in the Williams, trying to get ahead of him. Almost got ahead of him on the start-finish line. Again, if you're joining us, thank you. This is live coverage of the 2020 WSR Formula World Championship. It's the Canadian Grand Prix. Your leader is Nicholas in the Red Bull, ahead of Flip Flop Fish, who is the championship leader at the moment. Sweet Crown 19 not in the race, not able to battle for points, and Flip Flop Fish continues to run away with the championship. Jonathan Cox is in a very comfortable third right now, is about a second ahead of DePastor, who is struggling. And Sector gets ahead of Nathan DeVillers in the hairpin. Did not see the overtake, but Nathan DeVillers is back by about half a second, so I believe Nathan DeVillers might have made a mistake. Diego is coming down the line, and DePastor behind him in the slipstream. And we're trying to... there's a chat on there right now. Not exactly sure what happened. And there's messages from Niklas. Is Niklas having an issue? Oh, it's Mitch791 apologizing, couldn't make the race. He has the same exact profile picture as Niklas, who is in the lead of the race right now in the Red Bull. Dempsey retires. Safety car! There's a crash! Safety car deployed. Safety car deployed. A crash by the Toro Rosso of Dempsey just before it looked like the Wall of Champions. And Dempsey is out of the race. And a drive-through penalty for Scarlogan LPC speeding under safety car. And it tends to happen to at least one driver on the grid. But we are under safety car conditions again. Dempsey is out of the race. And I can't see the car. I don't think we're going to get to see the car. And no, it does despawn. But nevertheless, a crash for Dempsey. And he is out of qualifying. Sorry, out of the race. Not out of qualifying. And Nicholas goes into pits. Flip Flop Fish will follow. Jonathan Cox, will he stay out? No, he won't. DePastor goes into pits. So does Diego. Sector stays out. Sector will take the lead of the race. And a multitude of drivers in the pit lane. Pit lane is getting pretty busy right now. Everybody's switching tires. Some are going to get wing changes. But nevertheless, a few drivers are serving drive-thrus at the moment. But you see me flying, and Flip Flop Fish comes out. And in the pit lane, everybody's switching tires. It's busy in the pit lane right at the moment. Scarlogan is in second. We'll have to serve the drive-thru, but it is Sector who is in the lead of the race at the moment in the Alfa Romeo, and possibly a reverse of fortunes, but we do have to keep in mind that he will most likely have to make a pit stop. Those intermediate tires do not last forever. And this is interesting to say the least. There's the rear diffuser shot of Sector, and it is Scarlogan who has to serve the drive-thru behind him. Nicholas comes out in third. Nicholas is still the effective race leader unless something happens, but it is Sector who is in the lead at the moment. Now, Sector is an AI car? Did Sector leave? Oh, he might have been paused under safety car, which is fine. I'm getting a lot of connection blurps on the screen, but it seems everything seems to be okay and stable. And Chuck gets a 5-second penalty, a severe collision with DePastor. Does he have damage on the front wing? Chuck has been picking up major league penalties, and I don't see front wing damage. No, so I think anything under the safety car is considered severe collision, even if you don't get damage. But Chuck, again, if another 5 seconds added onto his time. And we might have to be looking at excessive penalties that have been being taken under safety cars and just during the race, because there is a lot of drivers with a lot of penalties in this race. And oh boy, I do have to go ahead in the there was an issue for me there. Hold on 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. And trying to get back onto the stream for you. And there was a chat, but I can't read it. That's unfortunate. Sector is in the lead. Scar Logan has not served the drive-through penalty. Dempsey is out of the race. 1 retirement. And under safety car conditions at the moment. Again, thank you everybody for joining us for live coverage of the 2020 WSR Formula World Championship. We're under safety car conditions after a crash from Dempsey, who was out of the race. And Sector is your leader at the moment. Scar Logan LPC is in second, but has to serve a drive-through speeding under the safety car. Nicholas is in third, but is essentially the race leader, as Sector still has to make his pit stop for a new set of intermediates. So it will be interesting to see what exactly happens. I would like to mention 6th in the wets on PS4 is Nicholas on time trials. So there's not many drivers who can match Nicholas in the wet on this track. So really Nicholas is on a great roll right now to possibly win a race. The safety car is in. We're getting ready for the restart. Sector will get a good getaway, and green flags will begin. Sector gets a fantastic launch off the line. And here comes Nicholas, already getting ahead of Scar Logan LPC. Still battling as Scar Logan LPC, but he finally gives way to Nicholas, who puts himself in the second and will try to chase down him. Now Diego gets ahead of You See Me Flying, and on the inside is DePastor, who will look still on the inside, is now going to be side by side of You See Me Flying into the chicane. You See Me Flying again gets ahead of DePastor. Chuck is 9th fastest, and right now ahead of Nathan DeVillers. LSF1 Baker is far behind right now. Got a terrible restart off the line. Nicholas is 1.1 seconds behind Sector, but is now within a second. Now, here comes Sector onto that, what would be a DRS straight. Nicholas is continuing to gain more and more on the Alfa Romeo. Flip-Flop Fish, championship leaders in third, 1.2 seconds behind Nicholas. Will, of course, look to try to get ahead of Nicholas, but not likely with the pace that's being shown. And Sector is losing bountiful amounts of time. I think it might have been a mistake for Sector to stay out, as he is losing time every lap to Nicholas, who is gaining and gaining and gaining. Sector's tires, I'd presume, are pretty worn right now, as he's wearing that special edition Abu Dhabi helmet, which I almost bought, but thankfully my bank account didn't agree with me, and I decided against it. And Nicholas is chasing down the Alfa Romeo, and fastest in Sector 1 again is Nicholas, again continuing to set fastest times after fastest times. I'm going to go on down the grid here, as You See Me Flying is in 9th, behind Nathan DeVillers. Nathan DeVillers is 5/10 away from Chuck in the racing point. Diego is in 5th position. A terrible start off the line in pole position, is still 5th in this race. Jonathan Cox is 2.8 seconds. And Nicholas is chasing him down, coming down that DRS straight in the slipstream of Sector. A little bit too far back for an overtake at the moment, but we'll definitely try to look on it on the start-finish line. Coming into the chicane. And Sector is doing all he can, but Nicholas is just clearly the superior driver. 5/10 away now. Won't be able to make an overtake here. A little bit too far back. And thank you for joining us. It's lap 17 right now. Sector RGZ is in the lead of the race right now after staying out. Oh, there was a bit of a snap there, and there was a bit of an internet issue. I thought he went into the wall, but he has kept it out of the wall, and I almost had a big crash yell right there. As Sector is trying for his life right now to keep Nicholas behind, but Nicholas clearly with the superior pace right now, is trying to chase down Sector, and I think the only thing that's keeping him behind is a lot of dirty air. And coming down the line into the hairpin, looking around the outside, now with the switchback, and Sector gets wheel spin out of the hairpin. Nicholas coming down the straight, more wheel spin, another tank slapper for Sector down the DRS straight. Will he be good enough to get an overtake here? No, too far back. Maybe on the start-finish line. And perfect through there. Sector, though, actually gets a good exit, and Nicholas is still behind him. So, still not able to get ahead of him. Fastest again is Nicholas, interrupted only by another 3-second time penalty for Chuck, continuing to add on the time. And this is going to be a bad race for him, as Nicholas is just not able to get ahead of Sector at the moment, but Sector still has to pit. And it is showing right now as he is struggling severely with the intermediate tires, and Nicholas is keeping close. That Flip-Flop Fish is loving it right now. As long as Nicholas stays behind Sector, it slows up Nicholas, and Flip-Flop Fish is able to gain. And, of course, Flip-Flop Fish would love to get into a winning position here. And, ooh, there's a cut there. Nicholas actually cut track a little bit. And I don't know if he got dirty air or not there, but that was definitely a warning for Nicholas, and he's got to keep it tidy here. The last thing he wants is a penalty. Flip-Flop Fish is really gaining on him, though, now, as he is very close as well. Lots of wheel spin, though, out of the hairpin. Nicholas in the slipstream again of Sector, going down the final main straight before the chicane. Will he make a move into the chicane? No. Still, Sector stays out in the race. Lap 18 of 35. Will Sector really try to push it that long into the race? Nicholas is so close to an overtake. Diego gets a 3-second time penalty of his own. Here comes Nicholas, and oop, there's contact from the back of the rear diffuser, and Nicholas hits Sector. No damage on the front wing. Flip-Flop Fish is loving every minute of this. He's licking his chops right now, waiting for a mistake from somebody to make an overtake. And it's a big battle right now for the lead. Sector, for all intents and purposes, is keeping Nicholas behind, but I don't know if that's... Ooh, Nicholas got a bad run. Flip-Flop Fish is in the slipstream. He'll look around the outside and then slot behind him, though. Not a place to be making an overtake. Do not want to be having an accident of your own. But Flip-Flop Fish had a look at Nicholas, who got a bad run out of there. Now coming into the hairpin, and Sector moves to the inside, and now an inside dive by Nicholas, and that was an outrageous move. Nicholas into the lead finally. Flip-Flop Fish will now be in the slipstream of Sector. We'll try to get ahead of him as well. Down the main straight, in the slipstream, switching to the inside, now the outside line. Sector is moving erratically, I think, and it might be giving a little bit of issues for Flip-Flop Fish. I don't think Flip-Flop Fish appreciates the movement that Sector is giving him, and Sector stays in second. And that was a fantastic move by Nicholas, taking the lead of the race on lap number 20 of 35. Now, he should go till the end of the race under the tires. A 3-second time penalty for Sector with multiple warnings. I think that's the time now. Make the pit stop. Flip-Flop Fish is trying to get ahead of him, but a lot of movement under the braking zone for Sector, and I don't know if that was necessarily ethical by Sector. Here comes Flip-Flop Fish, as we're getting a terrible shot of the rear diffuser right now of Flip-Flop Fish. Nicholas is going to drive away now from this entire battle, but Flip-Flop Fish is still in a battle for second position right now, and Sector is still staying out. Still out. There is a yellow flag somewhere, and there is a crash, and Chuck has crashed somewhere, and he has reversed on track and now spins the car around as much as he can, and there is a yellow flag right there, and LSF1 Baker and Yosemite Flying go ahead of him. And Flip-Flop Fish gets a fantastic run out of the chicane, keeps it out of the wall of champions. Coming down the start-finish line, will he look to make a move on the inside? A dive on the inside by Flip-Flop Fish. They make contact. Sector on the inside pushes Flip-flop fish out, wheel spin, and now around the outside is going to be flip-flop fish. Will he get ahead of him before the chicane? Yes, a fantastic move by flip-flop fish. A little bit of wheel bumping, but flip-flop fish back in the second. But this has helped, and Chuck has retired. There's a crash, Sector 3 on the DRS straight, and he is out of the race. Now, will there be another safety car? I don't believe so, as most of the drivers are far away from him, and it is all about car proximity. And no safety car. Chuck is out of the race. I do believe it was a crash to Pastor with a 3-second time penalty. And Nicklaus is in the lead of the race. About 1 second ahead of Flip-Flop Fish. Flip-Flop Fish is gaining on him. This is not over yet. Flip-Flop Fish keeping pace with Nicklaus, and this still might be a battle for the lead. Sector is seemingly for no reason keeping it still out on the race right now. It's a little ridiculous to me, as Diego is trying to chase down Jonathan Cox in the Haas right now. He's in 5th position right now in this race. And Nicklaus is in the lead of the race. A bad crash in Belgium, and now fastest in Sector 1 as he continues to set fastest laps. Flip-Flop Fish has had a mistake somewhere. He's 2.6 seconds behind Nicklaus. That is going to be a bountiful amount of time to try to recover, and Nicklaus is running away right now with the lead of the race. I'm going to ride on board of Diego right now, still battling with Jonathan Cox. A switchback on the inside, and then slots behind Jonathan Cox. Now coming up towards the hairpin, and Diego, who started on pole position, got a terrible start off the line, is coming down towards the hairpin. Here we go. Who gets the better exit? That's crucial. And Nathan DeVillers is going around the outside, and Pastor gets almost squeezed out of line there, and now Nathan DeVillers, the Formula 4 driver, will try to get ahead of Pastor. Coming down the DRS straight. Usami Flying is behind by 13 seconds. Baker is still behind him. Nicklaus sets a 1 minute 19 in the rain. That's a blistering time during race conditions. Here comes Nathan DeVillers trying to chase down Pastor. Will he make a dive on the inside? No, a little bit too far back. Diego still half a second behind Jonathan Cox. It's lap 23 of 35 right now. And it is Nicklaus who's in the lead of the race, ahead of Flip-Flop Fish behind him by 2.6 seconds. 2 seconds behind is Sector, still racing right now. And Sector might not be making a pit stop in this race. He is not required to. He's not required to switch to another tire, so if he wants to, he can stay out. And he's 4.3 seconds ahead of Jonathan Cox, who's having his own struggles in the rain right now. Nathan DeVillers is still chasing down Pastor in the Renault. It's Renault versus McLaren, the same engine. We'll see what happens here. Coming towards the hairpin, Pastor is struggling right now. Nathan DeVillers is looking and close, and a tank slap for Nathan DeVillers, and he is going to get a major amount of wheel spin out of there. Flip-Flop Fish puts it back under a second again, under 2 seconds behind Nicklaus and Flip-Flop Fish. Sector is in 3rd. Jonathan Cox is in 4th. Diego is in 5th. And now look at this. Pastor and Nathan DeVillers are going side by side down the start-finish line. And Nathan DeVillers on the inside into turn 1 gets ahead of him. And now Pastor actually gets bumped. And now on the inside goes Pastor on Nathan DeVillers. Will he get ahead of him? No, I don't believe he will. And slots behind him into the chicane. Pastor finally gets himself behind. Nathan DeVillers gets himself ahead of Pastor. I don't think Pastor wants to be behind Nathan DeVillers, as Nathan DeVillers will try to get away, but that's a big amount of wheel spin, and Pastor will try to keep up with Nathan DeVillers. And You See Me Flying right now is all the way back in 8th position right now. All drivers will score points in this race. And we all know who's going to get pole position here. It is the man in 1st, Nicklaus, who is in a 1 minute 19 right now. Nick is in the 118s on the wet, according to Tiz Eric, who's in the comment section. Thank you for all the information during the race. Great to have you in the comment section, and thank you for joining us for the WSR race right now in Canada. Brandon Lay's in the comments right now, rooting on for Nicholas, and glad to have you in the comment section as well. Great to have you in the race. It's lap 25 of 35, and Nicholas is your leader. Flip-Flop Fish, though, is still chasing him down. Championship leader is Nicholas. Sorry, is Flip-Flop Fish, and he is going to extend his championship lead by a considerable margin over Sweet Crown 19. And I wish I could say I had a fantastic time. I'm only 232nd in the world on the 2004 Ferrari in Canada, which is the fastest classic car anyway. But that's my only claim to fame in this game. Not good at it, but that's why I'm in Tier 2 and not Tier 1. And Nicholas is your leader right now. We're in the final stages of the race. And again, thank you very much for everybody who's joining us in the race right now. Yeah, you know, I'm top 3%. I'm gonna flex myself a little bit, trying to feel good about myself as I watch Tier 1 drivers. I did have a crash in Belgium, though. It wasn't great. And Nicholas, well, my real life racing career was a lot more successful than my gaming racing career. Nicholas is in first. He's ahead of Flip-Flop Fish. Again, that's another fastest first sector. And Nicholas, the tires are going away. Nicholas is not. Nicholas is getting faster and faster by the lap. It's pretty incredible, actually. Jonathan Cox is in 5th position. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas, who came onto the scene in Bahrain in our league and has been on a roll, keeps improving, keeps getting better and better, and he is a master in Canada, and I can't wait. As long as he keeps it all together, should win the race. And I'm very excited to call him because he's been complaining that my commentary has been mean to him. I hope that's not the case, but I'm very happy as Nicholas is doing very well, and I'm glad to see drivers doing well. I want to see new faces on the top step of the podium, and Nicholas seems to be that man. It's a 1:19.0. Wow. Almost time trial times by Nicholas. He gets faster and faster. Max Verstappen in the rain, definitely for sure in this Red Bull, as Nicholas continues to lead away. Riding on board with Nathan de Villers, he is moving up places, ahead of Tapastra right now, behind Jonathan Cox, and I hope I'm not getting that red line glitch in the rain, but no, it is just wheel spin. Ooh, that's wheel spin actually for Nathan de Villers. He's trying to chase down Jonathan Cox. The real-life Formula 4 driver has been on a roll. Now, I would actually like to mention, I'm not seeing a lot of rain right now. Is it drying up right now in this race? I think it might be drying up. The rain is considerably less right now than it was before. Is this going to be interesting to see? We have to wait and see when DRS is enabled because there is no rain out on track. Lap 27 of 35. This race might be thrown into a tailspin, ladies and gentlemen. Nicholas is leading. There is no rain coming off the tires. Into the pits is Nicholas, and it is dry conditions now. Nicholas sensed it. I sensed it too, and there is no rain out on track. The cars will be coming in the pit. And it is medium tires for Nicholas. Not softs, I would like to mention. Not softs. Flip-Flop Fish put on softs. Oh, no, it is soft tires. I do apologize. Medium tires it looked to be on medium tires, but it's not actually. It is softs. Nicholas is in the lead of the race still. He pitted, and positions haven't changed too much. Jonathan Cox is actually ahead of Nathan de Villers, though, still. And You See Me Flying gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, adding insult to injury, what has been a terrible race for him. Nicholas is in the lead still and is setting fastest Sector 1 again. but it's dry conditions now. It's not wet. Nicholas definitely having the advantage in the wet, still probably having the advantage in the rain. In the dry, but Flip-Flop Fish is unleashed. Might be a little bit more of a level playing field right now. We'll have to wait and see. Nicholas, oh no, fastest, Sector 2. Going wide in the hairpin is Nicholas. Oh dear, no. Is this going to spell the end for him? I don't think it will. We'll have to wait and see. Flip-Flop Fish is gaining on him, though, in the dry. And now Flip-Flop Fish is going to try to chase down for that win. It is lap 28 of 35. There is still a very considerable amount of laps to go. We'll have to wait and see. Nicholas still leads the race. He gets fastest lap. It's a 1:13.8, and it is faster than Flip-Flop Fish 4. Now WSR Flip-Flop Fish. That's an old name, Flip-Flop Fish 4. Diego actually goes fastest in the dry, so Diego currently fastest on track right now. He is 4th behind Sector by a pretty considerable margin still, I'd like to mention. Nicholas is actually gaining on Flip-Flop Fish, though. And it is 2 seconds behind, actually, though. So Flip-Flop Fish is actually losing time to Nicholas. So Nicholas still very, very exciting in the race right now. And Sector RGZ in 3rd. He's on the podium right now. And I got to say, a very good recovery drive from Sector. Definitely a possible driver of the day if we do have it, as he has moved up from last to 3rd on the grid. And it's been a fantastic start for him. And a fantastic race as he looks to get a podium. Diego, though, is 1.1 seconds behind. Is there any penalties, though, that will change this? We'll have to wait and see. Nicholas is perfect. Now he sets another fastest lap. It's in the 118s. 110s. That's a rain weather time. It's in the 110s. Diego, though, goes faster than him. So fastest man on track is Diego. And we definitely see an advantage for Diego right now. If he was in a different position, we might be calling a different race right now. Flip-Flop Fish is trying to gain on Nicholas, but it's probably not going to happen as Nicholas continues to set faster laps. And I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I actually am quite happy that we're on dry conditions. It means the race will finally start to end. Nicholas is coming up to Scarlogan LPC to lap him, and blue flags are being waved for the Renault driver. Coming down the straight, DRS will be activated momentarily. In fact, I do believe it has been activated. And it should have been activated at least. We'll see. I don't see the flap opening. No, there's no DRS yet. Nicholas will have DRS behind cars he's trying to lap. But Scarlogan LPC is still ahead of him. Sector goes fastest with a 1:09. And Sector, the latest addition to the Tier 1 Championship, goes fastest with a 1:09. Faster than Nicholas at the moment. So he's not fastest in the dry, but he is still blistering through right now. 1.9 seconds ahead of Flip-Flop Fish 4. And the Red Bull driver is on a masterclass drive. He is led from start to finish, getting into the lead in the beginning of the race and has not looked back. And Nicholas is on a roll. Only a few laps he wasn't in the lead behind Sector, but that was inevitable as Scarlogan finally gives way and will continue on through. Nicholas gets ahead of him. Sector gets major wheel spin. And Diego, I would like to mention, is chasing down Sector by a considerable margin. Now DRS activated. And here we go. Flip-Flop Fish is in 3rd. Sorry, why am I calling Flip-Flop Fish? Diego gets in the 3rd ahead of Sector. Sector drops behind. And 5 seconds behind is Nathan DeVillers. So I don't suspect he'll get ahead of him that close. But Diego moves in the 3rd. Probably a little bit of a consolation prize after what has been a disappointing race for him. Nicholas, lap 32 of 35, in the lead of the race right now, looking for his first win in WSR. Well, this Canadian Grand Prix has been pretty weird, to say the least. We've had a lot of restarts. We've had some issues. but a happy ending. As I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've actually been excited to see Nicholas finally make it to Canada. He's been talking about it all week, and he has been excited for the race, and I'm excited to see him possibly cross the finish line. We don't know yet. We're still waiting. We still have 3 more laps to go after this one, but it's looking good. Flip-Flop Fish is in second. He's 1.7 seconds behind. Will gain considerably in the championship and will look to close it out soon. Diego is in third on the podium. Sector 1.3 seconds behind, and Nathan de Villers is catching up, not really by a lot. And I would like to mention the chat is Nicholas all the way right now, which makes it even better. The crowd's excited. The real-life crowd's excited. I'm sure the in-game crowd is mimicking its excitement, as we do actually hear a little bit of claps on my end, as Nicholas is leading the way away from Flip-Flop Fish. There are 3 more laps to go. There's not too much to talk about. There's not a lot of gaps too close on track right now. Baker is chasing up to You See Me Flying, though, in the Ferrari. I'm going to ride on board a little bit with Baker and You See Me Flying, who had an issue in the beginning of the race, which I might suspect might get investigated. And, oh, there's a spin! Flip-Flop Fish! Sorry, You See Me Flying. Flip-Flop Fish's teammate has a spin, and the front wing is gone. I'd have to presume on You See Me Flying's car, and Baker gets ahead of him. Eric, I've tried to invite people for interviews after the race, but it has never worked. We tried it in Season 1, and it was a complete disaster. I'll have to wait and see if Nicholas wants to do an interview. We'll have to wait and see. Nicholas is coming around for the penultimate lap of the race, though. Nathan de Villers, 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. I don't think Jonathan Cox has too many penalties. You might want to try to get close to Nathan de Villers. And You See Me Flying, though, and I gotta imagine... Oh, no, he's still got some front wing, but it's not a lot. And You See Me Flying will pit. Change front wings. Scar Logan, I think, is a little bit too far back. Nicholas, 1.2 seconds, actually. He might have had a mistake somewhere. Flip-Flop Fish did gain a considerable amount. As we move on to the final lap now of the race. Oh, wait a minute now. Flip-Flop Fish is starting to get within a second here. And Flip-Flop Fish on a charge. Nicholas is trying to get ahead of him very quickly, and he wants to definitely keep it out of DRS range, especially for the second DRS straight. But Flip-Flop Fish is keeping him honest, still going for the race win. Nicholas in the lead. Last lap of the Grand Prix. Flip-Flop Fish chasing him down, still trying his best to get close. 1.2 seconds. I don't think it's going to get up to that DRS straight in time. And here we go. Nicholas is coming around the final hairpin. And the crowd is cheering. They feel it. I feel it. Nicholas comes down the DRS straight. Flip-Flop Fish will not get it. And this has been a long time coming. Nicholas, who was in second position in Bahrain, has had some moments coming around the chicane. Nicholas will win the Canadian Grand Prix. A flawless drive from the Red Bull. Flip-Flop Fish will finish in second. Diego will finish in third after a bad race for him, but a consolation prize. Sector, on his first race in WSR Tier 1, will finish in fourth. The Formula 4 driver of Nathan de Villers should finish in fifth position. A good... Right? No. He jumps Sector, actually, and he'll finish in fourth. Nathan de Villers, best of the rest at the moment, and that's a great race by him. What a drive. Nicholas with the win. And oh, there's your consolation. A little bit of wing damage for Flip-Flop Fish. And what a drive from Nicholas. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't been that happy in a long time on a broadcast, and I gotta tell you, it's a highlight of the season. I'm gonna ask Nicholas for an interview. Where's my phone? I have to get into the PS chat. Oh, no. Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. I have misplaced my phone. Oh, no, there we go. I have requested. I have requested for the interview. So we got the esports driver in here. You got a former racing driver on the commentary booth, as it is Nicholas with the win. I am waiting to see if Nicholas can try to get in here. I'm going to invite him into the party chat, nevertheless, and give him a head start. We don't invite a lot of drivers in here, so... please tell me I have him on my friends list. No, I don't. This is terrible. Okay, I have to search his name up. No good. Where's Nicholas's? Oh no, where is it? Where you gotta give me one of these has to be Nicholas. There it is. I thought I had him as a friend, whatever. We'll invite him to the party chat. Alright, I invite him to the party. Flip-Flop Fish is with me. And I'm going to wait a little bit, but I can't wait too long. We might have to end the stream. Well, thank you everybody for joining us that was in the stream. Great to have the crowd. Great to have Brendan Lay on the comment section. Great to have you in there. And so glad that you got to watch some Old Wide Sim Racing. And to Zarek and everybody else who was in here. And here we go. Still waiting. I'm waiting to see if Nick also will respond for an interview. Drivers will wait. I'll wait too if they want it. Nick is talking with his engineer. All right, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta get in my party. You gotta accept my invite. I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's very hard to commentate these races without my co-commentator, but I'm glad everybody bared with me. Definitely better than my Austria performance. Don't watch that. Austria stream was bad. Oh, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. The chat is that the stream is on PS4. He doesn't have a mic, so he'd have to do it on Discord. So unfortunately, I can't do the interview. We don't stream from a PC. If I did have a PC stream, I would do that. But unfortunately not. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, my name has been WSRX or Noah Clark. Thank you so much for joining us for live coverage of the 2020 WSR Formula World Championship. Make sure to subscribe if you like the content and like the video. if you enjoyed the race as well. Make sure to check out our other races that we have available to us and check the great catalog of fantastic moments. Make sure to check our WSR European Championship, which are full of some of the fastest drivers in the world. And thank you so much, everybody. My name, again, is WSRX. You can follow me on YouTube if you look me up. I only have one video. It's terrible. It's a terrible lap on GT Sport. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and have yourselves a wonderful night.